I just need you to know it's not personal.
Cass, have some fucking balls.
Welcome back to Episode Society, Euphoria Season 3, Episode 5, titled This Little Piggy. And honestly, this episode is the most unhinged one yet, and that is saying something for a show that has never been shy about going there. We have the most graphic opening of the season. Cassie abandoning her friend for a man, again. Maddy building an empire in real time. Rue getting buried alive. Jules blurring her own lines. Nate losing fingers. And Alamo Brown on a horse swinging a polo mallet at Rue's head while she's buried up to her neck in the ground. A lot happened. Let's get into all of it. The opening. This little piggy indeed. The opening of this episode is one of the most graphic sequences Euphoria has ever produced. And this is a show that has never been subtle. It felt like being inside the sexual fantasy of a man who has watched too much porn and completely lost touch with reality. Hypersexual, overwhelming, deliberately uncomfortable. And that discomfort is the point, because what we are watching is Cassie's OnlyFans content, in detail. The show is not letting you look away. It is forcing you to sit in it and ask yourself how you feel about it. Because this is what Cassie's glow-up actually looks like up close. Not the empowerment narrative, not the taking control of your own story, the actual product. And the show wants you to hold both things at the same time. She made a choice, she's getting the bag, and it is also deeply uncomfortable to watch. That tension is intentional. Sam Levinson is not letting anyone off easy this episode. Cassie, the pattern continues. Brandon talks Cassie out of being managed by Maddy in what feels like 5 minutes. And Cassie folds, completely, without a real fight. This is not new. This is a pattern that has been running since season 1. The moment a man says the right things in the right tone, Cassie pivots. She did it with Nate over Maddy in season 2. She is doing it again now with Brandon over Maddy. Always quick to side with a man, and then Nate. The manipulation this episode is genuinely wild. He is telling Cassie sweet nothings, making her feel chosen and special and seen, all because he needs her money. That is the entire motivation. He needs the bag, and Cassie is the bag right now. And Cassie, to absolutely nobody's surprise, is eating every word of it. But what makes this episode worse is how Cassie handles telling Maddy, showing up and looking down at her because Maddy doesn't live in a doorman building. Like money and status suddenly determine whether someone deserves basic human decency. She cannot read the room. She walks into every situation completely blind to what the other person is feeling. She expects to be the victim every single time regardless of what she has done. Cassie lacks emotional intelligence, and this episode is the clearest example of it all season. She is not a bad person, but she is an exhausting one. Maddy building the empire. And then there's Maddy on the other side of that conversation being absolutely magnificent. She is not taking the nonsense, not even slightly. She tells Cassie straight, have some balls, which is honestly the most generous advice anyone has given Cassie in 3 seasons. But the real moment, the moment that had us pausing the screen, is Maddy making Cassie sign a contract and taking a photo of her holding it. That is a woman who knows exactly who she is dealing with. Maddy has known Cassie her entire life. She knows Cassie only moves when something benefits Cassie, so she protected herself, legally, on the spot. That is boss behavior, real queen mentality. And then the episode takes Maddy somewhere even bigger. When she meets Alamo at the diner, she doesn't take Rue's attempt to give her an easy out. She sees Alamo and his cowboy energy and immediately clocks a money-making opportunity. They talk terms. Maddy wants to pick up some of his girls and turn them into stars. The cut is 15% each. She picks Kitty and Magic. Maddy is not just managing Cassie anymore. She is building a whole roster, a whole operation. She is stepping into a completely different league, and she is doing it with her eyes wide open. The only question is whether those eyes are open wide enough to see what Alamo's world actually costs. Rue and Jewel. The Rue and Jules interaction this episode was loaded from the jump. Jules was low-key jealous and not hiding it particularly well. She was direct. Jules has always been direct. But there was something underneath it. An edge that goes beyond 2 exes navigating an awkward situation. And then they end up spending the night together. Rue's boxers are in Jules's bathroom. So yes, they had sex, which makes everything Jules does with the older man even more complicated. Because here is the thing about Jules and the older man financing her life. He tells her she cannot sleep with other people, because he doesn't want to bring an STD home to his family. Let that sink in. This man is sneaking around on his wife, funding Jules' entire lifestyle. And his concern is not the betrayal, it's the health risk. He is not protecting Jules. He is protecting his secret. The audacity of setting boundaries around fidelity when you are already being unfaithful is something else entirely. Is it transactional? On paper, yes. But the lines are getting blurry and Jules is still in it. That ambiguity is going to catch up with her. Nate, losing everything, literally. Nate is just a bum now. We said it last episode. Episode 5 is confirming it in the most visceral way possible. A loan shark's henchman shows up and cuts off Nate's left-hand ring finger. The man screams so loudly a little girl on a bike outside hears him. That is where Nate Jacobs is in season 3. Losing limbs. Running out of money, options, and people. And still manipulating Cassie with sweet nothings because it is the only tool he has left. Nate in season 1 was terrifying because he had everything and used it as a weapon. Nate in season 3 is terrifying for a different reason. He has nothing and he is still dangerous. Rue and Maddy, the most dangerous friendship. The Rue and Maddy diner scene is one of the best of the season. Maddy talks about reaching a place of pure harmony, and this connects beautifully to Rue's conversations about God, faith, and reading the Bible earlier in the season. Two women coming at peace and spirituality from completely different directions, but landing somewhere similar. It is a quiet, unexpected moment of genuine connection. And then Alamo walks in, meets Maddy, and everything shifts. Maddy routing for Rue, saying she is crazy but has a good heart. That is what a real friend looks like. Genuine loyalty. But Rue's drug world colliding with Maddy's is dangerous energy. These are two worlds that should not be touching. And now they are. And the show itself is not pretending this is a good thing. Rue tries to give Maddy an out. Maddy doesn't take it. We are rooting for Maddy. We are terrified for Maddy, both at the same time. Lexi and Cassie the shadow. Cassie gets the part. And Lexi's frustration is written all over her face. And Cassie doesn't see it. Doesn't even look for it. Lexi has spent her entire life being the quiet one. The observer. The one who processes everything through her writing while Cassie is the one people look at, talk about, orbit around. That shadow is heavy, and it has been there since they were children. So yes, the jealousy makes sense. It is not pretty, but it makes sense. But Cassie is selfish and narcissistic, and her choices this season are genuinely questionable. So rooting for her to get the bag while also understanding Lexi's frustration, both things are true at the same time. The show is smart enough not to make either of them fully right. Bishop, the detail everyone is sleeping on. Before we get to the ending, we need to talk about Bishop, because this man is not getting enough attention. While Alamo is at the diner with Maddy, Bishop pulls Rue aside. He is wearing a full Tyvek suit. He has duct tape, rope, and an electric handsaw. He tells Rue he thinks she is a bad omen, that ever since she showed up there has been a cascade of trouble. Then he plugs in the saw, sends Rue on her way, and walks into a plastic-covered bathroom where Big Eddie is bound and gagged. That is not a threat. That is Bishop doing his job. Right next to Rue, while she is standing there. The net around Rue is not just closing. It has been closing for a while, and she's been too deep in it to see how tight it already is. Alamo, the loose screw. And finally, the ending. Magic goes to Alamo and tells him that Rue recognized the robbers' voices during the robbery, but said nothing. And on top of that, Rue had tried to frame Magic by planting cocaine in her locker. So when that unraveled Magic made sure Alamo's suspicions landed exactly on Rue. The question is sharp. Why could Rue identify a face on CCTV, but claim not to recognize voices she should have known? That inconsistency is what seals it. This is not about the DEA. Not yet. Alamo doesn't know that layer exists. What he knows is that Rue knew something and stayed silent. In his world, that is betrayal. Full stop. So he buries her up to her neck and rides at her on horseback, swinging a polo mallet at her head. She screams. Episode cuts to black. The pants scene earlier told us everything. A man who beats someone within an inch of their life over the wrong trouser size is not operating on normal logic. Alamo Brown is a loose screw with real power and zero limits. And the DEA layer is still ticking underneath all of it like a clock nobody has found yet. That is not dramatic danger. That is actual danger. Euphoria, Season 3, Episode 5. This Little Piggy. The most graphic opening of the season, the most unhinged ending of the season, and somewhere in the middle. Maddy quietly building an empire, and Rue quietly running out of time. Cassie is still Cassie. Nate is losing fingers. Jules is blurring her own lines. Lexi is standing in the shadow again. Bishop is the scariest man in the room and nobody is talking about it. Maddy is the only one with a plan. And Rue is buried up to her neck with a polo mallet coming for her head. 3 episodes left. Everything is converging. It is only going to get messier. Drop in the comments. Do you think Rue gets out of that hole? Or is this finally the moment everything catches up with her? Because we genuinely do not know. Like, subscribe, all of that. This is Episode Society. See you in the next one.